Hi, I'm Pam Mahshie, the Overlock Business Manager for BERNINA of America, and thanks for tuning in to Episode 2 of The Joy of Serging.
And I'm Gail Yellen, owner of Gail Patrice Design.
Today we'll be exploring the secrets of mastering designer details with Julian Collins. Julian is a public health professional by day and an avid sewist by night. And in many times, very late at night, in my opinion, and looking at all the different ways that you are putting together your passion of classic menswear and a bold relationship with fabrics and prints.
And I absolutely love the way Julian uses colors. It's so vibrant and fun.
It's no surprise then that he has had his work showcased in many publications, including Sew News and Threads. His quest for self-expression certainly brings great joy to aspiring sewists and creators of all types. And when you work with different types of customers, the community that you've developed has certainly really exploded into all different aspects. And we're just so glad to have you here today, Julian.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk with you all today.
Great. Well, let's take a little look then at all the different ways that we're going to be able to use sergers, and specifically in the way that Julian uses them today.
So one of the things, I have been sewing since 2016, and when I started sewing, I really was just excited to take flat fabric that's almost like paper and turning it into 3D garments in design. And I learned really through books and YouTube, even though I had always had a passion just to see people create. And then once I got into especially the BERNINA sergers and machines, the sky's the limit in terms of the creativity that I could use and the things that I could create.
Yeah, and you know, there are so many. You've been selected for the expert on the L860 machine, and the time that you've put into the development of your art has really taken off in different ways, I think, maybe that you had even expected it.
Absolutely. I know that, especially when I started sewing and even started using a serger, I didn't do all the fancy things that I know a serger could do. Sure. I basically just focused on finishing edges, and really that was it. I didn't see it used for anything else, or even sometimes didn't even really play with tensions. I just kind of like, it looks like that will hold, and that's fine.
And you have a lot of company in that department too.
And I think so many people are very timid and afraid of using a serger because they think that it's going to be complicated. It's going to be hard to thread. And, you know, machines have been around a long time, and they can be a little more difficult to thread. But we've got some great features on our machines, too, that really help in making that process so much easier.
Absolutely, with the air thread as well as just with the stitch consultant and the manual in the machine. It's like you have a teacher right next to you, and there's not a lot of things you can mess up, so you can really have some fun and really get to explore your machine.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So tell us then a little bit more on the different kinds of fabrics and things that you sew with also. How do you select your fabrics? Because as we talked about, you create with variety of fabrics and different kinds of prints. How do you select those prints?
So really, I am like a kid in a candy store. If it catches my eye, I'm gonna sew with it. And sometimes even as I shop online, I play fabric roulette. I don't know exactly what I'm getting.
Do with it?
But if it if I'm drawn to the colors, if I'm drawn to the print, I'm going to buy it and then decide what I'm going to make with it.
You know, eventually you'll use it for something fantastic.
Exactly. And I know that my machines can handle it. So I just kind of get it, feel it. I'm like, okay, I think this will be good for that. And then just get to creating.
So you don't have to shy away from any kind of fabrics that you're working with, knowing the machines that you're working with are going to be able to handle that fabrics.
Absolutely.
And the features that those machines have certainly help you in the development of those projects as well.
Absolutely. And it just makes it super simple, especially when you know that your machines are going to work and work well. You can really focus on the creativity of the process and just having fun and not worried about if it's going to look right or if it's going to jam my machine or anything like that. Because you know, those things are already taken care of for you by BERNINA.
Before you, exactly.
It gives you so much freedom to work, and especially if you do buy fabric online when you're not 100% sure of what you're getting. So,
absolutely.
Do you buy most of your fabric online?
I have definitely gone that way. There are definitely some shops that are close to my home in Cincinnati, Ohio, that I love to frequent. I love to shop at. But there's a lot of different fun fabric shops that I can get online. But then also they are around the world. So I don't just stick to American fabric shops. I buy fabric from the UK. I buy it from Poland. Just all depends on what's out there.
What catches your eye?
What catches my eye. So it can be from anywhere. If I really like it and I know that I'm not going to see it other places, I have to get it.
We were talking a little earlier before we even got started here on how many followers both of you have on your YouTube channels. And so the amount of time that you spend on developing your projects and classes that you have, you're probably getting people from all over the world that are also viewing
Absolutely.
and learning from you.
Absolutely, and not just on like YouTube, but also on things such as TikTok and Instagram, where I do live. So these are literally where you can just sew with me in my sewing room, right at my machine, and listen to me talk, listen to music. We just kind of have a good time, and that's a way to build community. Especially sewing a lot of times can be that insular project. Like there's not a lot of people that you can have in your sewing room, especially not mine. I have a lot of machines in there, takes up a lot of space. But with the use of TikTok Live and Instagram and different things like that, that's a way for community to be built, and you can build friends from all around the world sewing and having fun together.
And isn't it fun when you know that somebody on the absolute other side of the world is thinking and doing the same thing that you're doing in Cincinnati? I think
Absolutely.
it's so cool.
Absolutely. It's just so much fun, and just a great way to meet new people and to learn different cultures and ideas and different things like that.
And the way people sew, because, you know, so many times we sew in our own little world sometimes, and as much as all of us go out and teach and are involved with different communities, I think sometimes it's also a confidence builder for ourselves, that it's like, oh, you know, we know that people are really interested in wanting to know more about how we're actually putting projects together, what kind of feet to use, what makes it so much easier. And I think too, so many times all of us, they look to us for that encouragement or that way that they can actually use their machines in different ways, because they are an investment in many cases.
Absolutely.
For customers.
And I think too, I always say I never walk away from a class without learning something from the students in the class, and I bet you, or just a new inspiration or idea.
Absolutely. It's funny because especially as I teach classes, a lot of people are older than me and have been sewing even longer than I've been alive, and I always learn something.
Watch yourself.
Yeah, I was
Watch
just going to
yourself.
say, be careful.
But I think, you know, just the amount of knowledge and the amount of stories in the room, that's like just a way that you can work to collect those and work to learn new things from a different perspective, which is really always fun and exciting.
And just the way people think about something and their aesthetic. You probably just love looking at the way people reinterpret your patterns.
Absolutely. And I think when people think of patterns, they think that they have to make them exactly like you see them on the envelope, using some similar fabric, using similar designs and different things like that. When really a pattern is a roadmap. Once it's in your hands, you're the designer. Right. You get to create what you want. So I am really excited to see when people take my pattern, take my designs, and really make them into something fun, new, and exciting that works best for them. So I focus mostly on vintage-inspired menswear for Know Me patterns. But really, when I see a woman make it, when I see somebody make it for their child, when I see people take a sleeve from my garment to add to something else, it's super exciting to see that really my idea and my thought can transcend just what I had thought in my head.
Right, because it does give everybody that freedom of using different parts of different patterns that are going to make it the way that fits someone better or gives them a look that they're going for. And I think so many times people do so because they like that uniqueness. They like the opportunity to be able to make something, whether it's for themselves, which most of the time people who sew don't necessarily sew for themselves. They sew for friends or family.
Oh, I sew for myself.
Yeah.
Guilty.
I'm a selfish sewer through and through. I will tell you, I will teach you how to sew before I will make it for you.
There you go. You're going to teach them how to fish instead of catching the fish for them.
Exactly. Exactly.
There you go. And you know, when we teach someone, I always think that it's certainly a way that they're going to be able to express their creativity in a tactile sort of way. Everyone has a different art form, and no matter, it's been years that we've been out there teaching sewing classes and having the opportunity to meet with and film with Nancy Zeman. She always said you can't wrap a baby in an iPad. Meaning you have to have something warm and soft in a way that's going to be nurturing. And I think a lot of times we do that. It nurtures, it feeds our souls, it feeds ourselves as much as it feeds the next person.
Absolutely.
It's very fulfilling creatively.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up for right now, and we're going to look at some other opportunities that Julian can share with you on different feet that he's going to use. So let's return in just a few minutes.
For sewists, nothing sparks a surge in creativity like the revolutionary L8 series serger machines, only from BERNINA. With quick, automatic one-step air threading, quiet, whisper-soft operation, and total control right at your fingertips. All sewists can serge with the greatest of ease. So take your imagination to the next level with BERNINA, made to create.
Hi, welcome back. So Julian, tell us a little bit about the different kinds of feet, because there's a bunch of different feet that you can use for your serger too, that I don't think people are maybe very familiar with.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times people only think that the foot that comes with your serger is the only foot that is available. I know that for myself, one of the feet that I use a lot is the piping foot. For not piping, because I do that every so often, but that's not really the biggest thing that I use it for. I use it for zippers.
Yeah.
Using a zipper, the piping foot for a zipper really just makes it super simple to do a lot of the projects on a serger, and it gives a nice clean finish without added bulk that you would need like with binding or something like that if you're really wanting to make sure that your edges are finished and closed.
Because that piping foot, because we have to give it a name, right? But it has a groove at the bottom so that the zipper fits into it.
Absolutely. And it just makes it super simple. But beyond that, you have a myriad of feet, such as like your blind hem foot and other things that you can really do a lot of fun things on your serger. And not just, people think that you also need a myriad of different machines. And sometimes you can do a lot of projects with just a serger or a cover stitch that you have in your sewing room right now.
And I always say that specialty feet always make us look like better sewists than we might be, because they are so precisely engineered that they do the job better than we could do with a standard foot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You mentioned a cover stitch machine. So you are the expert for the 860, which is a 4-thread, 2-thread overlock machine. Now, with a cover stitch machine, you have a separate cover stitch machine then, correct?
I do. Currently I have the BERNINA B62, which is a super, super fun cover stitch machine that is also air thread, so it makes it super, super simple. And a lot of times I will keep that threaded and like variegated, so I can always add a pop of color to a lot of my hems and different things like that.
Of course you do.
That's right.
I love my color. What can I say? But with my serger, of course, people are always thinking that you have to have all the same colors in all of your needles and in your loopers, when really, a lot of times, if you're wanting something to really match, you at least need it in that far, like left needle. And so as long as that's the kind of color that you want to match your fabric, the other colors you can have a little fun with. And usually I'm the person that's going to have a little fun with my colors.
No surprise there.
Well, and especially if you do like an unlined jacket or something that you may see the inside of it, that little pop of color just kind of adds to the design element of whatever you're going to be making.
Absolutely. And especially when you play with the stitch width and different things like that, there's so many different options that you can really make it into a decorative feature.
Sure. And it who's to say that it's functional or decorative, right?
Absolutely.
Just the designer.
Just a built-in embellishment.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. So now you worked with knit fabrics there. Can you also work with woven fabrics?
Absolutely. I use my serger in a lot of my woven garments all the time. So one of the ways that I like to use it is even in my shirt making. So for a lot of my sleeves, a lot of my side seams and different things like that, instead of doing like a flat filled or a French seam, I use my serger, a 4-thread, and just press it open. It gives you a very similar finish without the bulk. Makes it super simple.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that I like to do too is a lot of times people will ask, do I use a 4-thread? Do I use a 3-thread? And if something is going to be stressed, then I always use a 4-thread stitch. How about you?
Oh yes, I think when I want to have the stability, I use a 4-thread. But if I really wanted to stretch like on leggings or something like that, a 3-thread or something like that is usually what I decide to go with.
And that 4-thread is always handy after the holidays if you've eaten a few too many Christmas cookies.
There you go.
Gotta love it. You can hide a multitude of sins.
So Julian, tell us where where viewers can find you.
Absolutely. So you can find me everywhere at Julian Creates. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok.
So I'm sure both of you get asked questions all the time from students or customers that you encounter. You know, what are some of the more common questions that you might get asked?
I think that one of the things that I get asked a lot is people are just intimidated by the machine. They will buy the machine and leave it in the box.
An amazing thing.
Right. But I think especially with the L860 and the L890 machine, there is a sewing teacher basically in the machine for you. There are those demonstrations and those videos and different things like that that can help you take you step by step, making this machine one of the easiest ones to use and get to learn about. And because a lot of the machine does it for you, you can have fun and decide what you want to make and really get creative with your projects.
And even if you don't know, because sometimes we don't know what stitch to use, having that creative consultant in there,
Fantastic.
You know the fabric, you know your end result, and the machine will pick the stitch for you. I just love that feature in the machine.
Absolutely.
And tell you what foot to use. So
absolutely.
It's going to be perfect no matter how you think it's going to be. The machine will set it for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Gail, do you have any other questions that people sometimes ask you too?
Well, I do find that people say, well, you know, I'm not too sure about the tensions and the settings, and they get very nervous about it. And I always like to point out to them, I always say it's like tapping your heels 3 times and you're back in Kansas, that you can change the tension setting with just the tap of a finger on it, and it brings you right back to home base again. So people are always worried they'll never get back there to where they started from, but
like back to the default settings.
It's so quick and easy. Yeah, they never have to worry about it.
And I guess I have a question for you all, because I know that sometimes I've had a few serger horror stories where I've accidentally gotten fabric stuck.
You have?
What's funny is I actually did that on one of my projects that was supposed to be a sample for my pattern. So literally, and there was a little pleat, and once I removed it, there was a little hole there that I had to fix. So what do y'all do in that case? Because I'll tell you what I did, but mine was a little secret.
Well, I either take a wider seam allowance or it's an embroidery opportunity.
Absolutely. I've done that too. You know, you could put a little stabilizer on there, or you could put some embroidery over it. Just depends on how big that little slice is.
I know, I took a little bit of that stabilizer, and it was right on the back like yoke. So I had to really try to hide that, but a little bit of stabilizer and a nice hot iron took care of it there. But
you know, one feature I like on the machine, you've all mentioned your favorite features, I love to help with that, is it has a free arm.
It does.
So many sergers don't have free arms that you have to sew in a very flat method, and that sometimes that extra fabric does get caught underneath. So now you have a free arm, which makes it so much easier and helps you eliminate some of those other creative opportunities that we bring up.
That's true. But sometimes when you can add that little bit of embroidery someplace, like even like a little ladybug or something in a really random spot, it's always a little fun thing that you can add.
People think you're very creative when you do that, yes.
And we don't tell anybody why it's there.
No,
you know,
never.
We never do that. No. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be back right after this break.
My first big day was when my mom taught me how to sew. It did something to me, like being able to create something with your hands and understand the machinery. I got the bug.
Okay, so Julian, tell all of us about what you're up to next.
Well, I mean, there's always different projects and stuff that I'm up to next. Right now, I'm currently working on my next patterns for Nomi. So those should be coming out shortly, even from when this airs. So people will be able to go into one of your big box craft stores and find my patterns.
And how many patterns do you currently have?
So currently I have, I think it is 4. I keep on losing, I'm losing track.
Right?
But it's been a super exciting process, and to see people really create fun things with them, it's always exciting. And to really see people enjoy my patterns and try different things is super, super fun. But of course, I'm always sewing for myself. So finding different projects that I could use my serger, use my sewing machine. I've really been going through my vintage patterns. So a lot of like my knit patterns and stuff like that, vintage stretch and sews and quick sews and high fashion and LC California patterns. I've really been having fun with those.
I know I sent you, when we cleaned out my mom's sewing room, I sent you my mom and I were making my dad a leisure suit back in the 70s. So
With that double knit.
with that wonderful double knit that never, disintegrates. But
Or wrinkles.
or wrinkles, that's right. But there are some great techniques and ways that you can use those patterns to, like you said, inspire yourself to create new.
Absolutely. And I think that especially going to some of those vintage patterns with some of those vintage design details look modern and new, especially in our current fabrics. And there are so many different fun projects that you can create with them, or even just get ideas, such as the sweatshirt behind me. I mean, that has some vintage elements and features, but that's made basically all on the serger, including the zipper installation and everything like that. The only place that there was a sewing machine was just kind of tack in the facing of the collar on the zipper tape, but beyond that, everything else is serger.
And don't you love when people send you photographs from your pattern of things that they made and seeing their interpretation of it? I just think that is so much fun to see. And a lot of times you look at it and you think, I never thought of that.
Absolutely. And I think that people, once you start seeing people use your patterns, but also their machines just in new and creative ways, and because people think like, I can only really use this for knits, or especially knit garments, but there's so many other things that you can do with it.
Have you quilted?
Have I quilted on my machine?
Well, speaking of which.
Oh, look
So,
at that.
one of the things that I love to use my machine for as a way not only to practice using the machine, but also just to have fun, is I love to do quilts as you go. So this is fully lined and backed and with batting. And I even put on a pillow, so make it into a pillow, all on the serger. And this is just one way, but you also can do this with knits and basically make your own fabrics using like a 2-thread flat flail.
Because in that pattern that you did as the expert campaign for the 860, you actually took the knit fabrics and then pieced them together with one of Gail's most favorite stitches, which is a reverse flat lock stitch.
One
And
of my go-tos.
pieced the fabrics together and made a shirt.
Absolutely. And that's something that you can see online, but we've been talking offline, and so you might be able to see how I did this pillow here online as a class very, very shortly.
And this is so Julian with all the colors and the patterns. It's so Julian.
I love all the different combinations of fabrics in there too.
Thank you.
So anyway, well, we look forward to having this project online. We're going to hold you to that, and I know all of our viewers are going to be waiting to see it too. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
My first big day for sewing was I just had enough with taking my jeans to the tailor. So I bought a sewing machine. I had no idea how to use it. A friend of mine said, "Oh, I'm taking a quilting class." Like, all right, I'll come with you. I'll learn how to use the machine. And now I've been quilting for 7 years.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and we hope you enjoyed being with Julian as much as we did. I haven't seen you since I was in Cincinnati last year, so I hope the next time isn't quite so long.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me, and I hope to come back again so that we can continue this discussion.
Perfect. We sure enjoyed having you here, and I hope all of you enjoyed watching all the great things that Julian has to offer. So stay tuned for the next upcoming episode with Sue O'Veary, What's a Buzz? Until then, make every day a big day. Bye for now.